Picture this: November 2024, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. The biggest fight Netflix had ever streamed. 67 million households tuned in worldwide. The atmosphere was electric. The anticipation was through the roof. And in the middle of it all, standing across the ring from a 27-year-old YouTuber, was a 58-year-old man. A man who hadn't competed professionally in nearly 20 years. A man who, by every reasonable measure, had absolutely no business being in that ring. That man was Mike Tyson, and he lost, unanimously, to Jake Paul. But here's the thing, and this is the part that's been eating at me ever since. After the fight, Tyson didn't disappear into silence. He sat down for interviews, he got on podcasts, he launched a whole new boxing initiative. And the things he said about the state of boxing today, about today's heavyweights, about the fighters who are supposed to be carrying this sport on their shoulders right now, I'm going to give you every word, and by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why the greatest heavyweight of a generation is so utterly disappointed in what boxing has become. Let's start with the quote that genuinely floored people, the one that barely made headlines but deserved front-page treatment. On the Ariel Helwani show, not long after the Jake Paul fight, Tyson was asked about the state of modern boxing, and he turned the whole conversation around and pointed it directly at the sport's biggest active stars, men like Canelo Alvarez and Shakur Stevenson. Here's what he said, word for word. How could this guy be 60 years old and break all the records? They should be disappointed with themselves. How could this old cat come in here and break all the records? They don't want to do it. They fight once or twice a year. No one knows who they are. They need to have a story behind them. People looking up to them and following them. Read that again slowly. A 58-year-old man coming off a loss, carrying the weight of age, a medical scare mid-camp, and 2 decades away from the sport, walked in and generated more attention, more viewers, more cultural noise than every active title-holding world champion combined. And Tyson is saying that should embarrass every single one of them. And the brutal truth is, he's right. The Jake Paul versus Tyson fight broke Netflix streaming records. Meanwhile, most boxing fans can't name the current IBF heavyweight champion without Googling it first. And here's what makes Tyson's point even more devastating. Think about the business side for a second. Jake Paul, a YouTuber who started boxing professionally in 2020, reportedly made somewhere between $40 and $60 million for fighting a 58-year-old retired legend. Tyson himself walked away with around $20 million for 8 rounds that most people knew he couldn't win. Now compare that to the purses for legitimate championship fights. Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury's rematch in December 2024, an actual undisputed heavyweight championship fight, generated massive numbers, yes. But most title fights at heavyweight, they're lucky to break 1 million pay-per-view buys. Some barely crack 500,000. The Paul Tyson spectacle wasn't even pay-per-view. It was on Netflix, free for subscribers, and it still dominated the entire sport's cultural footprint for weeks. That's not just embarrassing for today's champions, it's a market signal. It's telling us that casual fans care more about personality, storylines, and spectacle than they do about belts, rankings, and technical excellence. And Tyson knows it. He's lived both sides. He was the youngest heavyweight champion in history, and he became the biggest pay-per-view draw in the sport. He had the skill and the story. Today's fighters, they've got the skill. But where's the story? Where's the reason for people who don't follow boxing to care? Now, and this is where it gets really interesting, Tyson didn't just stop at calling out today's boxers for being invisible. He went deeper. He started talking about the mentality gap between his era and the current generation. In a recent interview with The Ring magazine, one of his most candid in years, Tyson was asked to compare today's heavyweight division with his era. He said, and I'm quoting directly here, "Guys back then were tougher. They'd fight anybody with no hesitation. There was no, I have to talk to my manager about this. It was right now. Let's fight." He went on, "We were more active than they were. We were defending titles 4 times a year in my era. Now these guys are defending their title once every 2 years. We were war horses fighting until the finish." Think about that. 4 title defenses a year. 4. Tyson became undisputed heavyweight champion in 1987 at just 20 years old, still the youngest in history. He won his first 19 professional fights by knockout, 12 of those in the first round. He wasn't protecting his record, he wasn't protecting his undefeated streak, he was hunting. Compare that to the current landscape. Alexander Usyk, who Tyson himself called pretty active for a modern heavyweight, fought twice in 2024. That's considered elite activity in today's division. Twice, in an entire year. And Tyson's point cuts even deeper when you look at what's actually happening in the heavyweight division right now. Tyson Fury has had 5 retirements. Anthony Joshua and Fury never managed to fight each other despite years of negotiations. The undisputed picture has been in chaos since Usyk won both belts. These are the fights fans are desperate for, and they can't get made because everybody has too much to lose and not enough hunger to risk it. Here's the statement that no active promoter, no TV executive, and no sanctioning body wants to hear. But Tyson said it anyway, flat out, to the Ring magazine. He said, "Boxing is dying. Not struggling, not declining, dying." And when a man who is boxing, whose identity is so wrapped up in the sport that he came out of retirement at 58 just to feel alive in a ring again, when that man says the sport is dying, you have to pay attention. Tyson went on to explain that he's now trying to do something about it. He's launched the Mike Tyson Invitational, a 3-day amateur boxing tournament starting March 12, 2026 in Las Vegas. The goal? Find the next generation. Mentor them personally. Give young fighters the foundation, the discipline, the hunger, the mental toughness that he says today's professionals are missing. He was inspired, he said, by visiting kids at legendary referee Richard Steele's gym in Las Vegas, seeing that raw potential in young fighters, and realizing that the path from that gym to the professional ranks is broken. The system that produced Tyson, the Customato system of daily sparring, relentless repetition, and an obsession with the craft, barely exists anymore. Now, I want to be fair here. Because Tyson isn't just a man who sits around complaining, he's also been watching closely, and there are fighters who genuinely excite him. When the Ring magazine asked him which fighters he gets excited to watch today, he said, "I like Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis, Naoya Inoue, and Jermall Charlo, and I can't forget about the Mexican monster, David Benavidez." He also spoke glowingly about Terence Crawford, who recently demolished Canelo Alvarez, a man widely considered the best pound-for-pound boxer on the planet, in front of around 70,000 fans at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Tyson said of Crawford, "If you're a fighter and really want to test yourself, you do it like those guys and fight until you get beaten." But notice something. Of the names Tyson gets excited about, only one, Inoue, is a heavyweight. The rest are smaller weight classes. The guys carrying the technical brilliance, the activity, the star power that Tyson talks about, they're not in the heavyweight division. They're scattered across welterweight, super middleweight, bantamweight. The division that Tyson owned, the division that Ali, Frazier, Foreman, Holmes, and Holyfield made the center of the sporting universe. That division, right now, is being defined by two men arguing about who got robbed in Saudi Arabia and a YouTuber who keeps calling himself a heavyweight champion. So what does all of this actually mean? It means that the most iconic heavyweight of the modern era, a man who generated 67 million viewers at 58 years old, a man who once terrorized the entire planet, is standing outside the sport he built, knocking on the door, trying to remind everyone what greatness looks like. And the people inside, the champions, the promoters, the networks, they're not listening. Mike Tyson didn't say today's heavyweights are bad fighters. He never said that. What he said is that they lack the fire, the hunger, the willingness to risk it all, fight anybody, go to war, and do it again 3 months later. What made the heavyweight division the greatest show on earth wasn't just skill. It was personality. It was danger. It was the feeling that anything could happen. And right now, that feeling is gone, and the man who arguably embodied it more than anyone alive is the only person saying it out loud. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think today's heavyweights are living up to the legacy? I want to hear both sides, and if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the button. Real boxing talk every single week.